Is that, as I said, starting July the 4th in the evening, we're going to sleep in at the courthouse, and we're inviting all members of the public to come and join us. It's really going to be a celebration and a witness, a time to witness the injustice and the oppression that's going on. So we'll have music, and we'll dance, and we'll sing, and we'll also go over to the Art Parga Memorial Column. Now, Art Parga was a deputy sheriff in Santa Cruz County back in the 90s, and then he transferred over to San Joaquin County in Stockton as a deputy sheriff over there. One night, Deputy Parga led a SWAT team style raid on the private home of a retired Hispanic farm worker. That farm worker, he was about 65 years old. The night before this happened, he had given a ride to a 20-year-old who was hitchhiking. And the hitchhiker didn't have any place to stay, so Senor Rodriguez allowed him to stay at his home. Then the next morning the hitchhiker took off, and shortly thereafter was busted by the police, and they found a little marijuana on him. So they forced him to give him all kinds of information. Where'd this come from? What's your address? He didn't have an address. He was homeless. And so he gave him the address of the place where he had stayed the night before, Senor Rodriguez's home. Well, 2 or 3 days later, Deputy Art Parga led a SWAT team-style raid on Senor Rodriguez's home. They crashed down the door in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. or so. Senor Rodriguez heard what was going on, didn't know what was happening to him, but he grabbed a gun that was next to his bed, and he lifted it and pointed it at the door. Just then, Art Parga opens the door with his gun drawn. Both men aimed at each other, both fired, both were killed. There was no marijuana in the home, there was no drug involvement with Senor Rodriguez whatsoever, but that is the drug war in action. That is one of the more tragic of the drug war stories that we're going to talk about, and we're talking not just about how the homeless are treated. We're talking about how every one of us is treated by the drug war, by militarism, by the financial oppression of the big banks, etc. Those are going to be our issues, but we're going to focus on the issues of the homeless because those are the real untouchables in our society these days. And so we're going to start there at the basis and work our way up on all these issues. So I hope you'll come out and join us starting, as I said, July 4th, every evening thereafter, starting at 8 p.m. until 8 a.m. And we're going to, as I say, try to wake up the government to the problems that these homeless people face for no reason, because they are innocent. When they are awakened in the middle of the night, they're there because there's no shelter space available for them. And the law says that when there's no public shelter space, they're innocent. The only problem is that because commerce and the shopkeepers put such pressure on the police in the city to keep hassling the homeless and try to drive them out of town, prettify the city, they send the cops out no matter whether there's shelter space available or not. And that means that the cop goes and finds a homeless person sleeping in a park or on the beach or behind a building, and he shakes them awake and deprives them of their sleep, their peaceful sleep. Then he tells them, you either sign this ticket here, this notice to appear, or I'm going to haul you off to jail right now. Naturally, most of them sign. After they sign it, then the cop tells them, now get the hell out of here and take your stuff with you and don't come back. So then they've got a ticket now, so then the next day or the next week they have to get over to the courthouse. And then when they go to the court, finally get into the courtroom, the judge tells them, oh, well, I'll excuse your ticket if you can prove to me that there were no shelter spaces available that night. So you just go over to the homeless services director, and she will sign an affidavit if it was true that there were no shelter space that night, and you come back here and we will dismiss your ticket. And that's how that works. Well, the problem is they're innocent, but they're already been punished severely. They've been deprived of their sleep, bullied by the cop, had to schlep all over town, court, then the homeless services, then back to court. That's punishment of the innocent. and that's just to keep them on the move, keep them, keep the tension high, keep the stress level high, keep them feeling unwanted, and that's how it works. So we're saying this is unconstitutional behavior on the part of the government. It's cruel punishment. It deprives them of their right to privacy, their right to be left alone, their right to sleep. It's a basic necessity for your health. So this is a deprivation of health and ultimately of life itself. If you are deprived of sleep long enough, which the torturers around the world are very well aware of, if you're deprived of sleep long enough, you will lose your life. So this is serious stuff, and that's going to be our focus there at the courthouse. So I hope you'll come and join us, and we'll have a good time, and we'll also help wake up the government.